The Suzuki Swift was the go-to option when it comes to cheap, reliable, but practical motoring. This is the latest model. It's the top of the range GLX with mild hybrid power. Fortunately, you can still get a manual with the Swift, with the base model, but not with this top spec version. Power comes from a 1.2 litre mild hybrid, so 12 volt mild hybrid, producing 61 kilowatts, matched to a CVT automatic transmission with front wheel drive. This particular example looks quite fetching with its black roof and the two-tone alloy wheels. They're wrapped in Yokohama Eco style of tyre, 185 by 55 on a 16-inch rim. I like the way Suzuki has modernised the design a little bit for 2025. You know it's a Suzuki Swift still. It's just got the different clamshell style of bonnet, swept back headlights, and a few more contour lines along the waist. But perhaps most important for the Swift is the interior. Now this has always been a practical little cabin, and I can confirm that this is the same. Like, look at the ceiling, it's nowhere near my head. You'd have to be pretty tall before you'd actually get close to touching that. But the interior design is quite nice as well. It's pleasant, it's got some design flourish with the two-tone, even a third dimension here with the metallic trim. Nice touchscreen, not too big, but it is kind of just tacked onto the dashboard, but plenty of physical controls for your climate controls, and even the instrument cluster, it's kind of semi-digital. You've even got a start button there. And that 3-cylinder just chugs into life. 3-cylinders are always a little bit rougher than a 4-cylinder, just the way they are. So yeah, if you're not used to that, then this will be a little bit sort of concerning at first. But it's fine. It's such a small capacity engine that each sort of combustion isn't big enough to upset the kind of balance and smoothness that much. You can just kind of hear it. It just sounds a little bit rough compared with a 4-cylinder. There's no special driving modes or anything, although you do have paddle shifters, which is maybe a bit ambitious. The gear stick, I'm not a big fan of because manual mode is down below. So you're going from reverse to drive, and I often knock it back too far and it's in first, but you don't really recognize that until you look down at the dash and see the little M symbol there. But when you drive off, you know, it's in first gear. So it's revving, you're thinking, what's going on? Because you've knocked it down all the way into M. So it'd be good if that sort of manual mode was to the side, like most vehicles. Good to see a manual handbrake though. And this example's got heated seats for the front passengers. And likewise, up at the back, you'll be surprised by how much room you've got here. The backrest is a little bit upright, but look at that, my head's nowhere near the ceiling. I'm 170 centimeters. I've got plenty of legroom in my seating position. That seat is a bit further back, but even then I think you'd have plenty of clearance, at least for this style of vehicle. Look at any of the rivals, they're going to be a bit tighter in the back. This is definitely one of the biggest for this kind of style hatchback. There's no flip down armrest, even on this top spec model. No cup holders, that means, but you do have a little cup holder at the back of the console. No climate vents, but the cabin is so small that you get the air straight from the front anyway. And up at the back, 265 litres of boot space. That has increased a little bit from the predecessor, but when you fold down the rear seats, you've got a bit of a step there, so just got to be mindful of that. And then underneath, we've got a tyre repair kit, even though there is room for what looks like at least a space saver spare. I would rather have a space saver than the tyre repair kit, especially if you've got, you know, young ones driving this as their first car perhaps. You don't want them on the side of the highway trying to fiddle around with the tyre repair goo. Rather just have a space saver spare, that way you can at least put it on and get out of harm's way. But anyway, that does obviously help with boot space. All right, let's take it for a drive. I'm keen to see how it goes in the performance test later on, but the Swift has always been a good handling package as well. Like, just very practical and easy to drive, but also, yeah, surprisingly good handling when the road gets a bit windy. So let's see. Firstly, I've got a good driving position, plenty of adjustment from the steering column, including up and down and in and out. And you can lower the seat right down if you want to. I've got it on the floor at the moment, and it feels definitely low enough. You've got plenty of physical controls for the safety systems, like the lane keep assist. You can turn that off just by holding the button down a little bit. And you've got stop start as well, which you can turn off pretty easily. And you've also got stability control and your parking sensors. It does just have a normal rear view camera, it's not a surround view, but being so small, like the back of the car is right there, it's one of the easiest vehicles to park. Now this does come with a pretty basic torsion beam rear suspension setup, as to be expected for a vehicle like this. You know, it's not very heavy either. It's under 1,000 kilograms, so it doesn't need a complex, heavy and expensive multi-link setup. But surprisingly, even on rough roads like this, hitting some corners with speed and then encountering bumps mid-corner, I was expecting it to kind of buck and bounce around a little bit, but it really doesn't. It hangs on quite well and remains very stable and feels confident. The front end does feel a little bit kind of soft on the highway, and it seems to be affected by wind pretty easily. But when you get onto a winding road, it actually feels quite nice. Like around there, I can feel the front end, I can feel the tyres connected to the road. I think the most impressive part is that suspension. Like, it's not bouncing me around, even though this does have a short wheelbase and is very lightweight. That's normally a recipe for kind of, you know, a bouncy and darty ride, but this doesn't feel like that. It actually feels quite planted for this style of vehicle. As I said though, on the highway it does feel a kind of little bit wishy-washy over the front end, and yeah, a big gust of wind will kind of blow you a little bit around. Down there, yeah, there's a nice little bump right in the middle of the corner. It just remains very stable and planted. What about performance? Well, I'm going up a quite steep hill, 100 km/h speed zone. Put my foot down to the floor. It does climb the speed a little bit, but it's one of those vehicles where you don't really need to push it all the way to the floor. You just sort of ease it on, and the CVT transmission actually, look, I don't really like CVTs in general, but in this case I think it does help kind of maximize the available torque. And yeah, you can maintain 100 km/h up a steep hill. Look, it's not going to set your world on fire, but I think the performance is okay for this type of vehicle. And then at highway speeds, it's pretty refined. I'm able to maintain a conversation without, you know, raising my voice too much. There's a little bit of wind noise around that mirror, but other than that, it's cruising along just nicely. As for fuel economy, this is officially stamped at 4 litres per 100 kilometres. I worked out you can get it around 5 or 5.5 litres per 100 at the moment. It's in kilometres per litre. But yeah, expect roughly 5 to 6, easy 6. That's, you know, giving it a fair bit in the city. It's yeah, definitely very good on fuel. Overall, this is a new generation Swift, so it ticks all the boxes. It's surprisingly practical inside, easy to drive, comes with nice physical controls and all that, so it's, yeah, very simple to get used to, it's fun to drive, and excellent economy. Alright, let's head off now and do the performance test and see what it goes like.